Welcome into another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, another Earth Day this weekend with celebrations in many parts of the county, including at the Simcoe County Museum. We'll get a sneak peek. The Barrie Colts grabbed some new recruits at the recent OHL priority selection. Colts colorman Gene Pereira runs through those picks for us. Who should you believe in the electric vehicle debate? We get the goods from the CAA, which has only one mandate, and that's to offer the best advice to its members based on what it has learned, and hitting home runs for the hungry. We get the conversation started after this. Earth Day is Monday, April 22nd, an annual event held to demonstrate support for environmental protection. It was first held in 1970. A number of communities in Simcoe County will be celebrating, and so will the Simcoe County Museum. This Sunday, Barrie 360's Will Konken gets the rundown from events programmer Meredith Patterson.
Why is Earth Day important to the County Museum?
Earth Day is actually important to the Simcoe County Museum for the same reason that it's important to, the people of Simcoe County. Our Earth is very special to us. It's very unique, and it should be celebrated. There is a reason why we have Earth Day, and it's, to thank our Earth and to recognize, what our Earth does for us, because there is so much that it actually does for us.
What do you have planned for the day? What can people expect when they come to the museum?
Yeah, so the theme this year, because we typically have themes for our Earth Day, this one's Solar Secrets. So we're going to be kind of focusing on the sun, and we're going to have these hands-on experiments where people can kind of see the effects of the sun and see how the sun can power things as well. And then we also have, just a craft that people will be able to take home as well. So we kind of have hands-on experiments and crafts for people to come and do.
Those interactive things, that seems to keep people engaged.
I think for everybody, it's one thing to learn about it, it's one thing to read about it, but to actually physically do something and try to build stuff, or to physically see it, I think it's very important. I think it's really helpful for a lot of people.
How is the museum able to kind of keep things fresh? There's been a fair few of these Earth Day events for you, so how do you keep things fresh?
As I said, for Earth Day, because we did want to kind of make sure that we focus on the many facets that the Earth helps us, we decided that the best way to do it was to kind of focus on a theme. So not just the Earth as a whole, to focus on specific things that the Earth helps us with. So, whether it's water or trees or, the sun, we try to really focus on the different things. And to be honest, there is so much that the Earth gives us that I think we're going to be able to have content for years and years to come.
What activity are maybe you most excited for?
The activity that I'm most excited for, to be honest, is we make so there's a couple experiments we do, and one of them is to see how the sun powers things. Another is to see the effects of UV light on people. But the one I'm most excited about is actually solar ovens. So we're going to be building ovens, and the reason I enjoy solar ovens so much is because we're going to be using these solar ovens to cook s'mores, which are delicious. So that's probably the one I'm most excited about.
How big are the turnouts usually? How big was it last year?
For Earth Day, it's not. We don't see thousands of people, but we do see quite a few families. So on average, we usually see about 50 to 100 people. I think last year we saw about 50, which isn't surprising because we are having some momentum since COVID. So this is our first real in-person Earth Day since COVID happened. During the pandemic, when we were kind of in more isolation mode, we did do Earth Day virtually, but last year was actually our first one in person. So it was really trying to get the word out and getting people, back at the museum. Prior to that, we did see more. So we're really expecting to see a bit more this year than we did last year.
How much are tickets?
Yeah, so for the event, we actually do our special event cost pricing, which is $10 for adults, $8 for seniors and youth, $5 for children, and then preschoolers and museum members are free.
Where can people find more info and buy tickets?
Yeah, so you don't have to purchase tickets ahead. That you could just, it's kind of like drop-in. You can purchase the tickets at the door. But you can find more information at our website, which is museum.simcoe.ca.
Wide divide between those who favor electric vehicles and those who don't, each side very vocal in presenting its case, but who's right? Rather than talk to representatives from the two sides, we opted to go down the middle of the road to the Canadian Automobile Association's Assistant Vice President of Government and Community Relations, Teresa De Felice, for some guidance. Teresa, we keep seeing things on social media about electric vehicles and how bad they may be for the environment in terms of the mining that has to be done to get the materials for batteries, the overall impact on the environment from their production, and the effect they have on the power grid. What has the CAA found in its research?
Well, at CAA, we feel that our role is to help inform the public about emerging technologies and sort of the conversations that happen at the government level and how they impact our members in their everyday lives. And so, it's not up to us whether you choose to be an electric vehicle or not, but we know government mandates are coming, and so we want to make people just feel informed and aware about what's out there and what they need to know when it comes to electric vehicles.
So these memes I see about how bad e-vehicles are in terms of the environment, they're supposed to be helping us save the environment, but there's a group out there that's trying to discredit all that information. How much truth is there to all of those notions compared to the energy, I guess, that's expended and the pollution caused in the manufacture of gasoline-powered vehicles?
Yeah, I think in today's world, we have social media that, depending on, what your interests are or what you start to look at, will provide you more of the same. And so, everybody has to take that role to sort of be an investigator themselves, right? We hear about things like, they cost more to produce in terms of the environmental impact. And I think if you go sourcing out that information, there are a lot of very well informed or educated people. I think it's a matter of, what do you want to believe, but also looking at the sources and looking at what it is that you're trying to find out. Don't just take what pops into your feed as face value. If you're truly interested in knowing either way, whether this is something that's good or bad, you have to put a little bit of effort into it.
And has CAA done that? Is there anything you can say in terms of what we're reading on one side or the other?
The reality is that there is a desire to sort of address GHG emissions and have a more sustainable future. And again, some of this goes back to whether people believe, climate change is at risk or is an issue or not. But we know that the current mode of transportation, which is gasoline-powered vehicles, outputs from those types of vehicles and transportation in general account for 30% of all GHG emissions in the world. And so, this is a pretty standard fact. And for years, both car manufacturers, scientists, governments, everybody's looking at sort of what are some of those things that will reduce that impact. Even the gas-powered cars we drive have become more sustainable by various standards that governments have put in place. There's still mining for oil and gas. So, some people just say, mining for these things, is worse. And the production, I know of one manufacturer who built a whole plant to be more sustainable and reuse the water and, using clean energy. So everybody's trying to figure out how to do their part and how to reduce their footprint on the environment and give people the options that they want. There is a market for more sustainable transportation. And I think that's what everybody's sort of working to do.
Growing pains, of course, and it's going to be something that evolves over years, getting it right, getting things in place, becoming more and more sustainable with the e-vehicle market. So, let's give it a chance, I guess, is the motto we need to go by.
Yeah, again, in different parts, even in North America, the different routes, right? In Canada, the federal government has put a mandate of, phasing out the sale of gas-powered vehicles and moving towards electric. In other places, they've put targets, but not necessarily a mandate. And I think that, right now the technology is still very new, and I can understand why people are uncomfortable with the idea of feeling either forced into a particular direction or wondering whether these types of vehicles are going to meet their needs, because they're still pretty new, and there are some things to address, right? So they don't take you as far and as long as a gas-powered vehicle can go, but We've also surveyed people who drive electric vehicles on a national survey program that we did. We found things like range anxiety aren't as bad as what people think it is. People found that their costs to maintain their vehicles are a lot less expensive than, maintaining a gas-powered vehicle. There are some upfront higher costs, and I think that's why you've seen other government investments, like in Ontario, into mining or extractions and having the production locally for the batteries. And there are scientists working on what to do with these batteries when they're no longer powered enough to power an automobile, but there's enough power in them and they could be used for other sources of energy. So there's a lot of people working on this to make it all make sense and make it sort of the technology of the future. And there's other technologies, there's other fuels, things like hydrogen cell. So I think when it comes to automotive or transportation, the conversations we're having now are going to change quite a bit in the next few years, because no one's sitting still and waiting for one thing to either fail or succeed. It's a constant evolution.
Let's talk to the people who are ready to adopt the new technology. They're looking at e-vehicles. What do they need to be watching for or thinking about in terms of which kind they buy? And what, I guess it comes down to what you're using it for, whether you're a family, whether it's just back and forth to the grocery store, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it comes to, it doesn't matter what type of vehicle you buy, whether it's gas-powered or electric vehicle. For a long time, I think we've had a preference to buy a vehicle that we think is going to meet all needs, right? That of anything that could come up. Whereas, in your day-to-day, in most circumstances, you're using your car your vehicle in a fairly routine, regular way. It might be that once-a-year trip to IKEA that you all of a sudden require a big vehicle. And so sometimes, we find people tend to prefer bigger vehicles, whether it be for safety or because they do those big, cottage trips a couple of times a year. With electric vehicles, there's some differences, and there are hybrids on the market. And so CAA has pulled together a driver's or a buyer's guide to give you some options on how to source out what might work based on your needs and on your costs and your finances. And there are a lot of tools available, but people have to think about where are they going to charge it, because right now the charging infrastructure is probably the bigger impediment. If you're living in a single-family dwelling, it's fairly simple. You can pay to have an electrician come and install an EV charger in your home. So there's some upfront costs, definitely, when it comes to an EV buyer's guide, an EV car. And that is probably the biggest thing, is thinking about where you're going to charge, understanding what your daily routine is. But one of the things we say is also think about what your costs are now, right? So what's the depreciation value of the gas-powered vehicle you drive? Our tool tells you what the depreciation value of an electric vehicle is. How much do you spend a year now? Some of that's going to go into those upfront costs of buying an electric vehicle. But those are some of the big things and the tools that we've put together just to help people get informed and make choices. And
where can people access that?
So you can go to evbuyersguide.caa.ca, and this will help you pick vehicles that you're interested in. We have a cost calculator, too, to understand what your current cost of your vehicle is. If you head to our national website, which is www.caa.ca, and choose sustainability or /sustainability, there are a variety of tools that will help you understand what your current costs are, what your current impact is, and whether EVs are right for you.
You alluded to range earlier and how that's improving all the time. They're finding ways to get more out of the battery life. One of the other things people are concerned about is the cold weather in Canada and how that will impact things. I was reading not long ago about the experience in Finland, where I think they have the most EV vehicles on the road of any country in the world, and it's cold there and they're doing okay.
Yeah, there are quite a few countries that are similar to Canada that have adopted a very aggressive target, similar, probably more aggressive, or started earlier than Canada has. And they're looking at that infrastructure, that charging infrastructure, to make it around. I remember probably about 5-6 years ago landing at an airport in Winnipeg and being picked up at the airport in the dead of winter, minus 40-degree weather, in an electric vehicle, and that was the cab. So that, that driver was driving around an electric vehicle in one of the coldest parts of the country anyway in January. And so, and there was some EV testing in some of our coldest climates and coldest parts of Canada. There is, and I think those solutions have been addressed, again, as the technology gets better, as the manufacturers invest more into research and development on how to address some of those issues. That has changed significantly over the years, and I think the cold weather issue does have a little bit of impact, but not the way it did maybe 10 years ago.
Teresa, thank you very much for the insight and the information. I hope some of the people who are thinking about e-vehicles or are on the fence about them got something out of it and can make a knowledgeable decision now.
Yes, great. Thank you very much.
That website again for more information, evbuyersguide.caa.ca. What Barrie's Talking About is a weekly podcast featuring the best Barrie and Simcoe County have to offer and more. You can get caught up and make it easy to keep up in the future by subscribing to What Barrie's Talking About through any podcast distributor. Still to come on What Barrie's Talking About, the Barrie Baycats help the hungry, and the Barrie Colts start to bulk up for next season. Now this.
It's cool to care.
It's a well-known fact blood transfusion saves lives. It's also a well-known fact that the world relies on voluntary unpaid donations to fill the need for blood. The need for blood never ends. Canadian Blood Services in Barrie is calling on you to help save a life. Please consider donating today. Appointments are mandatory and must be booked in advance. Book today at blood.ca through the Give Blood app or by calling 1-888-2-DONATE.
Cool to Care is brought to you by the Peggy Hill team, keeping it real all the way to sold. Reach out now at peggyhill.com.
It's cool to care with 107.5 Cool FM.
This is What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. Season over for the Barrie Colts, but work has already begun on next season, starting with the recent OHL priority draft. Colts broadcaster and writer Gene Pereira watched with interest our Will Konken picking Gene's brain about those picks.
Barrie had a fair few picks, including the fifth, who they used on winger Parker Vaughan. Gene, what are the Colts getting in him, and how does he fit on the team?
Well, Vaughan's kind of a big, strong right winger, 6'1", 175 pounds, and he comes from Elgin Middlesex, and really he was, their team, the captain of the club. He was a big-time scorer, the guy that, in the biggest moments of the game, he's out there and he produces, whether that be down a goal, up a goal. He has that versatility to him. I've heard some comparisons to OHL scoring champion David Goyette of the Sudbury Wolves, who's a second-round pick of the Kraken. But certainly with Parker Vaughan, they get at the fifth overall position. You want to get an impact player, and I think Barrie got exactly that with Vaughan. I mean, there is, you had players that were like Valentini, and out of Valentini, the Marlboros, and Caleb Malhotra. But, the issue there was that Barrie ended up passing on them because they couldn't get a commitment from them to report. And, that was the big thing in this draft. There were a few players that were rated very highly, but they wouldn't make a commitment to the OHL. And I think you saw some of them fall. Other teams took a chance, but at that fifth overall position, Barrie believes they get an impact forward in Parker Vaughan, who's going to be a good leader for the team and is going to be a big scoring, which is something they felt they really had to address in this OHL draft.
Also a cool story about a defenseman, Cole Emerton. His dad played for the Junior B Colts.
Yeah, Chris, it kind of tells you how old I am. I remember covering Chris with the Junior B Colts, helped them win a Satellite Cup championship, and smooth skating defenseman. And Cole, an outstanding young defenseman. This is a guy that they got later in the draft that he was expected to go in the first round. And then, it was kind of a wild draft after the fifth pick. I was told that you didn't know who teams liked, but Emerton was expected to get go higher here, and the Colts feel they got a real good steal in the defenseman, who is just a mobile defenseman, big-time offensive guy who can put up points as well, but his defensive game continues to develop, and he's a guy they figure that's going to eventually be a big part of that blue line down the road.
Who else are you liking that they selected? They picked up a goaltender as well in the 6th round, and another name is John Mustard. He's got some NHL eyes on him.
Yeah. Obviously, John Mustard's a guy expected to go in the 2nd round of the NHL draft. He's a little bit older, but at the 13th round pick, the Colts felt they can take the chance of drafting him and see if they can convince him after in his NHL team, whichever team grabs him at the NHL draft, that hopes that they can convince him and talk him out of a scholarship deal with Providence to come to Barrie. It's a long shot, but at the 13th round pick, I mean, if you end up getting John Mustard, that's a huge addition to the offense. In the 2nd round, they also got Ben Bowen, again another kid from Vaughan that had some injury issues. At one point, he was rated in the top 10, so they feel like a little bit of a steal there just because of injury. They're able to get another big-time scorer, Barton, another 2nd-round pick, a defenseman, kind of in the mold of a Connor Punnett. He's a bit raw, going to take a little bit of time to develop, but they figure he can be a really good, simple, stay-at-home physical force in the blue line as well. And, goaltending was something. Obviously, Hellbrand is expected to come in and take that role. That role as the number 1 starter, but they're looking for young backups. And Arvin Jaswell, who played with Whitby, 6'1", a native of Pickering. David Bolitsky, the goaltending coach, really liked him, and they figured they got a goaltender that can eventually be a big part of their hockey club.
Up next for Barrie in the off-season schedule, they have the prospect skate this weekend, and then the import draft is coming up, and of course the NHL draft. Like you said, there are a couple Colts in the mix. Cole Beaudoin is ranked 25th, Riley Patterson 61st, Bodie Stewart 126th, and Bo Jelsma 219th. Maybe touch on that.
Yeah, we're excited to see Cole move up a bit in that 1st round among North American skaters, and he just had an outstanding breakout season. Riley Patterson, again, led all rookie scorers with 29 goals. Outstanding year for him. And, Bodie Stewart, there's another guy that I thought, near the end of the year, he really picked up his game, played really well in the playoffs. I mean, this guy, I think, is going to be a 30-goal scorer in the Ontario Hockey League, and you can see that in him moving up in the rankings as well. And, of course, Bo Jelsma, who's going into his overage season, but, you look at him and his numbers, had a breakout career year as well for him, and, there's a chance that someone, takes a chance late on the veteran. But it's exciting to see these young guys get an opportunity and move up in the rankings, which really speaks to, how hard they work throughout the season.
Some other good news is that Beaudoin and Keyshawn Aitchison, they made it to the U18 Men's World Championship.
Yeah, and a tough break for Riley Patterson. I think a lot of people expected him to maybe join that team, but when you look at it, Keyshawn Aitchison, this is a guy that's not even up for draft until next season, defenseman, and he's going to be a big part of the physical force of the blue line in the future. And it's nice to see that being recognized with Team Canada as well. And of course, Cole Beaudoin, has already represented his country. I had no surprise his addition to the team. From what I understand, Hockey Canada loves him, and how can you not? Just a great two-way forward. And it's always nice to see these guys kind of get rewarded for their hard work. And I can tell you that, being part of that Canadian system, talking to Keyshawn Aitchison, he's just really excited about getting a chance to represent his country.
Lots ahead for the Colts, but that's all for now. Thanks again, Gene.
Perfect, thanks.
Hockey for the Homeless has been a successful endeavor, raising funds for those in need of shelter. Now there is Homeruns For The Hungry, bringing together the Barrie Food Bank and the Barrie Bay Cats. Our intern, Andrew Sorokin, returns this week in conversation with Barrie Ward 2 Councillor Craig Nixon and Barrie Food Bank Executive Director Sharon Palmer.
So this is the 2nd annual Homeruns For The Hungry fundraiser that we're running. And it's a combination of the Bay Cats and celebrity notables from around the city of Barrie who will be coming together to have a fun baseball game and hopefully raise some money for the Barrie Food Bank.
Awesome. So you guys hosted the event last year. Do you see if you guys have some success this year that this could be a yearly thing that you guys do?
We're definitely planning on making this an annual event. We had a great time last year and we just see it getting bigger and bigger every year.
Tell me a little bit more about why you guys decided to introduce this event.
Certainly, yeah. The idea actually was stolen from the Barn Burner hockey event that Marinettle holds every year, and as you know, it's been a real success since it started 20 years ago. I remember driving home from the event thinking, this is such a great event. It raises so much money. Maybe we should think about doing this in the summertime, only a baseball theme. And a day or two later, I reached out to the Barrie Baycats, who were very supportive and wanted to do it. Spoke with Sharon shortly after that, and we were on our way.
You guys are going to have a mix of local celebrities and Baycats.
Sure. Basically, what we do is we take the Barrie Baycats, 10 or so of them, we split them in half, and we put Baycats on each team, right? Just so we have some talent on the field, and then we fill each team with some local notables, such as we have Gary Big Daddy Goodrich, who's a former UFC mixed martial arts champ. Mark Dilley, who is a NASCAR racer. We got Charlie Beatty, who's a World Cup skier and the youngest member of the, I believe it's the Canadian Freestyle Olympic team, as well as at least a half a dozen others that will be joining us, and some to be named later who haven't yet confirmed. But it's always a good crowd. They have a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to it.
So the event falls on May the 4th this year, Star Wars Day. So you guys are having a costume contest.
We just thought when it was on May the 4th, why not take advantage of that? And hopefully some kids and adults will dress up and come to the game, and we'll have a special prize for the best costume there.
And there's a prize as well for people who bring food donations. That's correct?
Exactly. So we encourage people to bring a food donation, and anybody who makes a donation will put their name in a draw for a prize as well.
And where do the proceeds for these for the donations go to?
So everything comes back to the Barrie Food Bank. We have been experiencing significant growth year over year. We're up over 100%. We're supporting just over 7,000 individuals each month with food support. And so the funds will go right into our coffers to help us buy food, things like meat and milk and dairy, fruit and vegetables, and help us keep going throughout the summer months.
How much are tickets, and where can people purchase them?
Well, tickets are $10, and children under 10 are admitted free. For a little value added, one of our sponsors, and we're very grateful that we have 14 different sponsors, I believe, at this point. One of them is Chick-fil-A, who will be giving out coupons for sandwiches that are worth more than $10. So you come, you buy a ticket, you get a free sandwich. So it's a lot of value added there.
And you guys are donating to the food bank with this. Can you tell me about what the events like these mean to the food bank, to have the food donated there?
So it's significant. We have a couple of major campaigns that we run each year, one in the spring, one around Thanksgiving, and one at Christmas. This one kind of is kind of our kickoff to summer, and it's a period where we typically have not had a fundraiser. So that's one of the reasons we really liked this concept when Craig brought it to us. It does help us get through the summer. We always have a bit of a tough time in the sort of June, July, early August timeframe, because it's not a point in time where we have funds coming in, and it's before we start to get donations from our local farmers. So it really does help us out.
How many tickets are you guys going to be selling to this event, and what's the capacity you guys are aiming for?
The capacity is close to 1,600 at Vintage Throne Stadium in the Barrie Sports Complex in Midhurst, where the Baycats play. They have the ability to bring in additional stands if needed. Hopefully that's the case. But we're hoping to have at least 1,000 people there.
Again, for more information and how you can get involved, log on to barriefoodbank.org/Homeruns For The Hungry. And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Andrew and Will for their input, to Matt Latter for his technical expertise, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About, rate it, review it. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on X at Barrie360, on our website, Barrie360.com, and there's our daily Kickstart podcast available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.